Hello my loves, welcome back to my channel. Now today we're going to be talking about the signs and symptoms of narcissistic abuse. So really what to look out for if someone does have narcissistic traits or is a narcissist. So it's important to remember that narcissistic personality disorder is one of the three dark triad personality disorders. So there's narcissism, there's sociopathy, and then there's psychopathy. So these like personality types do kind of like overlap sometimes. So for example, psychopaths will always be narcissistic, but they tend to be a bit more calculated compared to what a narcissist will be. So basically with narcissism, they're a bit more emotional compared to a psychopath or a sociopath. So, but that being said, it is still like a hierarchy. There's many different types of narcissists. So we're going to really be exposing the mental, physical, and also spiritual signs and symptoms of the abuse that it can cause you. Because the word narcissist gets thrown around quite a lot today, but some certain therapists or even psychiatrists don't really fully grasp the absolute damage that it can cause you, not just on a mental and physical level, but also on a spiritual level. Because sometimes it really is the case of like certain therapists are kind of like textbook when it comes to narcissists. They don't really go deep enough. Really understanding the true sinister energy of it. Anyone obviously who's dealt with a narcissist, whether they be overt, covert, or malignant, because there's a few different types of narcissists, or a neglectful narcissist, you'll truly understand the absolute hell that it will cause. It's not just like a toxic relationship. It literally causes brain damage within the victim itself. And they don't just kill your body and your mental health, it's like they murder your soul. Especially covert narcissists, because they're way more dangerous, because they're way more subtle. The abuse isn't overt, like the conventional overt narcissistic abusive type person. So we're going to be covering all of that now. So the first sign with pretty much any narcissist, whether they be overt, covert, or malignant, every single narcissistic type will follow the pattern of abuse. So basically this looks like love bombing, devaluation, discard, and then hoovering. So basically every single narcissist will love bomb you when they first meet you. So this normally lasts on average between 2 to 4 months. And this is when they'll come on really, really fast. They'll like absolutely adore you. They'll shower you with love, affection, attention, intimacy. They'll move the relationship really quickly, really fast. Saying I love you, you know, claiming they're your soulmate, twin flame, whatever the case. So they'll get like, just sweep you off your feet basically. So this is why so many people fall victim to this type of abuse, because of the love bomb stage, because they'll make you feel like you've met, oh my God, the one. They'll come across as like extremely loving, supportive, faithful, and unfortunately this is because they're mirroring you. So you'll feel like, oh, you've met your soulmate, because they'll be mirroring you extensively. They'll be studying you as well. So at this point it can be, you know, really, obviously it'll feel extremely good. So physically speaking, this will be releasing a lot of dopamine within your body, a lot of serotonin, euphoria, bliss. And this is what obviously creates a trauma bond later on. So basically, the next stage will be the devaluation stage. So after the love bombing, because obviously it never lasts, the mask will always slip, because they're not really being their true selves. The mask will slip, and then basically this is when they start to devalue you. Now, depending on whether they're overt or covert, it depends, they'll change their strategy. So an overt one will be really like critical, they may insult you a lot or whatever the case, but then and covert narcissists will just neglect you. But again, with both of them, they'll just switch. They'll turn really cold, really distant, really avoidant. This is why people typically with avoidant attachment style, a lot of the time are actually covert narcissists. So they'll literally just push you away. And then you'll think like, and sometimes it can happen overnight. So you'll just think, what's wrong? What's happened? You'll be really confused. Or another thing is they'll start to have a wandering eye, or they'll start to just basically, they'll stop showing you the same type of love, support, loyalty that they would have shown in the love bombing phase. So during the love bombing phase, obviously they'll make you feel very emotionally safe, comfortable. You'll trust them a lot. You know, they won't be looking at other women or men. They'll be very like focused on you. But then during the evaluation stage, all of that goes out the window. So basically, this is to make you feel insecure. This will damage your self-worth. This will make you feel like shit. This will start to make you question yourself. And then whenever you'll try to like question them about it and say, you know, why are you doing this? What's happened? Why have you changed? They'll just dismiss it. They'll gaslight you. They'll be like, nothing's wrong. I haven't changed, blah, blah, blah. Or they blame you. Or they just lie, deny, you know, they do the Darvo technique. So go Google that if you don't know what that means. But again, it's a typical tactic that they use to always like shift blame onto you, to never be accountable. So, but basically the point of this is to basically make you feel a lot of stress. So in the devaluation stage, this will then make you feel a lot of stress. So this will cause a lot of cortisol to now surge through your body. So during the love bombing phase, you would have had high amounts, like excessive amounts of dopamine. You would have felt like you're walking on clouds 9. And then literally very quickly, you'll be pulled down into feeling a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety. And then you'll start to attack yourself, and then see like, you know, feel something's very, very wrong. But then at the same time, they'll be reinforcing you and saying, no, no, no. So this will then start to make you doubt yourself, when intuitively your gut will feel something's off. So this devaluation stage will happen, can sometimes happen for years, but on and off, on and off, on and off. But it will be like worse and worse and worse as time goes on. So basically, again, it's like they'll neglect you more and more and more and more, until eventually you start to feel like a ghost, until you're walking on eggshells around them, because you never really know what reaction you're going to get. And then sometimes, you know, they'll be very moody, very cold. So again, it's like if they're a covert, they'll be more quiet, cold. They'll stonewall you. They'll give you silent treatment a hell of a lot. Where an overt one may be more domineering, more scary outwardly. So, but then this will always lead up to a discard. So that's the third phase. So basically the discard phase is where they just drop you. So a narcissist will always just use their victims or their supplies, and as long as they're getting what they want, or until they feel like the grass is greener elsewhere, because every single narcissist has grass is greener syndrome. They'll always feel like, oh, I can have something better, something better, something better. Because they're never basically are responsible for watering the grass, okay? They never basically do the effort in any relationship to make things bloom, to make things blossom, or just to stay healthy. They'll never put in the effort to do that, or the work required, because they're incapable of giving and receiving love. So basically with the discards, they'll like abruptly abandon you. And this can be done in the most callous, evil, sinister ways. Sometimes this will happen like a lot of the time after you've been living together. Sometimes if you're pregnant, sometimes during pregnancy, sometimes it will be after you've got married. So it normally happens after you've done some sort of big move with them. And so literally after you've bought a house, after you've got a mortgage, after you've like had a baby or got married or whatever. So it's kind of like they'll fuck you over when they've really got their hooks into you, when you've really changed your whole life for them. And normally at this point, you'll be an absolute shell of yourself. So they'll discard you when they've broken you, which I'll get to later on. So, because it always leads to like, you know, severe health issues. So basically they'll leave you when you're at your worst a lot of the time, if they can. So they'll basically, as soon as they feel like, oh, I can do better, or I can get out, or I can go off and do my own thing, you know, they're extremely selfish. Or a lot of the time they'll replace you with someone else, so they'll be cheating on you, and then they'll like find like a third party. that they can replace you with, and sometimes it's not always another lover. It could be a friend, a family member that they've love bombed, you know, in secret, that they've groomed, because love bombing is essentially grooming. So it's like they set up a new person to then move in with, because a lot of narcissists are hobosexuals, psychiatrists call them. They're never settled. They'll like, you know, just fall in love with anyone or love bomb anyone that they want to live with. You know, no one falls in love quicker than a narcissist who needs somewhere to live. And they do this to run away. So basically, as soon as you also are more difficult to deal with, so if you're trying to hold them accountable, if you're making them you know, do things, basically grow up. So if they have like an addiction, which I'll get to later, if you're trying to like help them or make them be sober or see truth in something, basically, you know, make them grow up and be mature and treat you right, like they'll run off. So it's like they'll constantly just run to whatever's easier. They'll constantly run to someone or something where they don't have to be responsible, where they don't have to change, essentially. Because they'll just lie to absolutely everyone. And as soon as someone like shines a light and like holds them accountable, basically, isn't a little cheerleader, isn't enabling their toxic ways, they leave. So, and this is why it's so difficult to be with these types of people. So basically, but with a discard, for them, they're just putting you on the shelf. So a lot of times a narcissist won't actually in their head dump you. They're just discarding you for the time being. So sometimes a narcissist will want to like dip their toes in other people, literally in other people, or other places, or try out something, but keep you as a backup, keep you as a backup option in case, oh, that new person doesn't work out, oh, I can just run back to them. So it's like, oh, they'll try out a new relationship, no, they don't like it, they'll run back to the ex. And you see this happening, you know, in cycles all the time. This is called triangulation. So they'll do this time and time and time again to multiple people. They'll do this, they'll have a pattern of doing this to their past exes. You know, as soon as one ex, you know, is discarded, or if the ex breaks up with them, they beat them to it. They'll go back to another ex in the time being, or then they'll replace them with a new supply that they can love bomb and lie to. You know, it's crazy. They'll just relationship hop again and again and again. So basically, in their heads, this is because they feel entitled to your energy. They think they own you. And this is what leads to hoovering. So this is the fourth phase, is obviously hoovering. Now, hoovering is when they will normally discard you. They'll fuck off for a few months, or sometimes just a few weeks, sometimes years, and then they come back. So this normally happens when, like I said, the grass wasn't greener, something didn't, you know, fall through, or if their new relationship doesn't work out, if their new person doesn't work out, if they basically shit hits the fan, they have nowhere to live, and then they want to come back to you. Like, it's always for some sort of selfish reason. It's never because they're genuinely sorry. So this is why people get trapped in narcissistic abusive situations for years and years and years, because their trauma bond is obviously to the narcissist, and because the narcissist is so good at manipulating you, because they'll give very heartfelt apologies only when they want to, only when they want something. Because with narcissists, they don't see people as real people. They see people basically as transactional objects to use. In their heads, everything is transactional to a narcissist. They're extremely selfish. So hoovering is basically them always manipulating you, coming back to you. And this will happen time and time and time again. But it's just words. Because sometimes the narcissist will literally give you all these apologies, promising you things, promising that they've changed, that they've got sober, that they're never going to cheat again, blah, 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 blah. Or if they've damaged you in some way, oh, they're going to pay you back, or they're going to do this, going to do that. And they never, ever stick to it, ever. And even if you show them their old messages, like their old apologies, they'll just be like, you know, they'll somehow twist it onto you. Oh, you know, you manipulated me to apologize, even when they were the ones who came running back to you, like time and time again. So this is how like maddening their mind games are. they will literally drive you into insanity. And this is why it causes extreme psychological trauma and damage to the victim in severe ways, obviously, the longer it goes on. And, you know, a narcissist will literally keep coming back into your life until you fully go no contact and shut that door. So this is why don't pay attention to words, pay attention to actions. Because, but that being said, a narcissist, sometimes they'll be on their best behavior when they come back into your life, but only for a short period of time until, again, they switch on you. You know, I've had this in the past. They'll come back and then they may be nice for, a week, maybe 2 weeks, if you're lucky, or a month, and then bam, they switch back and then they discard you again. Sometimes a narcissist will literally come back into your life just so they can discard you again, so they can hurt you. Not because they're sorry, it's all to do with their ego. Because a narcissist can't stand when you move on, when you start dating again, when basically you don't care, when you become indifferent and you break that trauma bond, when you start to basically heal and they can see that you're healing, that you're no longer chasing them, because all they want is your energy, all they want is for you to chase them whilst they're looking back and running the opposite direction. They can't stand it when you finally say, no, I've had enough. So bear that in mind. That is the narcissistic abuse pattern cycle. So love bomb, devaluation, discard, hoover, and repeat. Rinse and repeat. So they literally will repeat again, because as soon as they hoover, they love bomb you, and then they devalue, then they discard you. So they repeat again and again and again. And this can go on for years, for fucking years, okay? This is sometimes you'll see people like trapped in these types of dynamics for 5, 10, 20, sometimes 30 years. It's so important to like do what you know is best for you, and really, really allow that door to shut so you can fully heal. So this leads me to number 2, and that is inconsistency. So typical inconsistent hot-cold behavior. Now, this unfortunately is a very dark psychological trick that many abusive people with either avoidant or narcissistic traits or full-on narcissistic personality disorder use on their victims. So this will be basically recycling, you know, abuse and then reward, abuse, reward, you know, stress, dopamine, love, hate, or pain, love, pain, love, pain. This is exactly what drugs do to you. So basically when someone is being this hot, cold, it completely destroys your nervous system. It literally gives you fucking brain damage, and it makes you addicted to them, because your body, your nervous system gets basically completely reprogrammed, completely dysregulated, and then now they'll cause you so much chronic stress, which raises so much cortisol, normally 3 times the amount that a normal person can handle, okay? And this is what also causes health issues, but basically it will program you that the only way you sense relief is their presence, is their breadcrumbs of love. Because like I said before, the breadcrumbing, so basically when they love bomb you, it will get less and less and less and less until literally you are starved of affection. You are starved of intimacy, non-sexual intimacy. So you will basically become more and more desperate and desperate and desperate. And eventually you'll be begging. You'll be begging for just a little crumb of their love or affection. You'll be begging them to be kind to you. You'll be begging them to love you and to make you feel safe again. So basically you'll spend most of a narcissistic relationship fighting for the person that they were in the beginning. You'll constantly be saying, you know, I don't feel loved. Why don't you show me love? Why don't you make me feel like how you used to make me feel? Why do you not act the way you used to act? And then sinisterly, they'll blame you. Why? They'll blame you for it. So it's this awful cycle of basically, you know, positive reinforcement and then abuse, positive reinforcement and then abuse. And they do this basically to control you, to manipulate you as well. They'll abandon you, they'll give you silent treatment, they'll stonewall you, they'll ghost you, because they know that this will make your cortisol raise, your anxiety raise, you'll go into a panic, you'll have panic attacks, you know, so severely that you'll be like throwing up, literally throwing up, because your body is so fucking stressed. It's so dark, it's so sinister, but they literally make your brain addicted to them as if they're like heroin. And it is scientifically proven, by the way. You know, I've done a workshop with my amazing therapist who specializes in narcissistic abuse, and he had it as well. And, you know, and this is a psychiatrist, really, you know, well-educated man. And he himself acknowledges that they're demonic as well, by the way, even though he's a, you know, typical psychiatrist, more scientific. But I done a workshop where I learned the psychological effects and causes of trauma bonding and how deep and severe it actually is. Like, it is so hard to break a trauma bond. And this is why you can't judge people in toxic relationships, because it's literally the same as getting off heroin. Probably worse, because heroin doesn't come chasing you when you're trying to quit, okay? You literally go through withdrawal symptoms when the narcissist discards you, okay? I went through this and I thought I was dying. You physically go through withdrawal symptoms when they discard you, especially the first time. And because a lot of the time when they discard you, they ghost you, they block you. So they won't give you any closure. And this will literally send your whole body into extreme panic and withdrawals. You'll be like shaking, crying, you'll have no appetite. You know, I remember I lost like 2 stone in 2 months like that, because I couldn't eat. I was throwing up, nightmares, like they cause PTSD. Because the trauma bond is that severe, it literally damages the hippocampus in your brain. And this makes you more reactive, this makes you more stressed. Like, it damages you on such a deep psychological level, it's actually insanity. So if you are going through this, if you do feel you need like help with this, because it is something you can't really heal on your own, you really do need guidance, then please contact me, because I do offer one-to-one services, and I do currently have a summer sale on with 20% off. So please contact me. And I'll be more than happy to help you with that as well. But basically what you need to understand with a trauma bond is you must go through with the withdrawal symptoms. You must stay no contact, and this includes not looking at their social media, as hard as that is. You can't have any reminders of them. So I will be doing basically a more in-depth video on how to heal from betrayal trauma, how to break trauma bonds, because that is a whole video on its own. But just be aware that this hot, cold, inconsistent behavior causes that. So if anyone shows you, whether you think they're a narcissist or not, hot, cold treatment, don't get involved, because they'll damage your brain. And I'm not saying that lightly. They will literally cause you brain damage. So never, ever go with anyone who's inconsistent. Never, ever go with someone who is hot, cold. So never go with anyone who is like all over you 1 minute and then ignores you the next. Never do that. Or 1 minute they're blaming you, attacking you, accusing you of all these horrible things, and then the next they're, you know, saying the complete opposite, love bombing you, saying how incredible and amazing you are, saying how much they love you. That's not love. That is literal deep psychological abuse. People who love you don't do that. People who abandon you are using you, because people who love you don't abandon you. Only people who use you abandon you. And abandonment and discarding can be emotional. So this can even be when they're living in the same house as you, okay? It's not just physical abandonment, which obviously is the most severe, but they can also be when you're under the same roof. So it's such a deep thing. But they can literally emotionally abandon you, and this is them neglecting your needs. This is them not listening to you, not even looking at you, only acknowledging you again when they want something, normally sex or help with work, or they want you to do something for them. So basically a really good way to tell if you're in a trauma bond is if when your partner who you suspect may be narcissistic or toxic, if they give you a hug, if they do basically one small nice thing to you, so if they give you a hug or kiss you on the forehead or give you any form of non-sexual intimacy, and that makes you feel like bliss, if that makes you feel like, oh my God, you're in a trauma bond. Because that is the bare fucking minimum. So the fact that you get high, literally you get a high, a rush of dopamine as soon as they give you a little hug, as soon as they give you like affection, it's fucked up. That is not normal. You are in a severely abusive relationship if you have that. If them just looking at you and asking you a question, basically treating you like a human being, if you get like a little buzz from something so small, you're in a fucking abusive relationship. That is a severe trauma bond. Leave. You must leave. Trust me, because if you don't, your whole life will be destroyed. And this is where narcissistic covert abuse is so fucking bad, because it's death by 1,000 cuts. You won't know it's happening until it's too late. Because these people don't shout at you. They won't punch you in the face. They won't act like an overt cut narcissist. They won't be physically abusive. It's all psychological and emotional. They do it through neglect. Because neglect is one of the most psychologically abusive things you can do to another human being. You can do to any being. Like, look at an animal when you neglect them. Look at a baby when you neglect them. You know, go watch that experiment that they done on that baby, where the woman, the mum, like just has no face, no expression. I'll try to tag it down below. But that shows, and the baby gets so distressed when they're literally not getting any like affection from the mum. So with a narcissist, a covert and neglectful narcissist, they'll do this to you for days, weeks, months, years on end. But then, intermittently, very inconsistently, they'll give you a few little breadcrumbs of love. But the whole time they'll be elsewhere, except when they want something from you. So this trauma bonding tactic, this trauma bonding dark psychological manipulation is fucking severe. It's not to be taken lightly, because you are literally now become a drug addict. And getting off it is one of the hardest things you'll ever have to do. So number 3 is no empathy. So of course we hear this quite a lot with both, you know, covert, overt, it doesn't matter. Again, every type of narcissist has no empathy. Now they can fake empathy, but again, it's like very inconsistent empathy. So there'll be obvious signs of like, they may not cry much. They may not cry at like a TV show or whatever. Like you'll see it. They may not care about like animals or whatever. Like you'll see they just don't give a shit. You'll see like they're not really interested in like maybe owning a pet, like anything that involves them nurturing something, because it takes empathy to love something, right? But the biggest red flag when it comes to no empathy, again, to test someone, is if they don't react when you cry. Or worse, they accuse you of being manipulative. They accuse you of fake crying when you're literally sobbing. Because unfortunately, a narcissist will do this to you. But again, when they fake cry, it's never genuine. It's never real. And you'll see they won't even have tears a lot of the time. Or it'll be like one tear and then it's gone. So when you're literally like having a breakdown in front of them, when you're crying, shaking, having a panic attack, throwing up, like literally in the most severe state ever, they won't care. Sometimes they'll laugh at you, but a lot of the times they'll literally just like not even look at you. A lot of the time they'll go to bed and they'll sleep whilst you're literally crying and throwing up and having a panic attack. They'll literally neglect you and ignore you. They stonewall you basically when you are at your worst. So the most evil, sinister thing is like when you're literally emotionally broken, sobbing, screaming, like literally shaking, needing love, needing help. They won't care. They'll abandon you. They'll ignore you. They'll leave. They'll try to leave. They'll go to sleep. Or worse, they'll laugh at you. They'll smirk. They'll blame you. They'll attack you. Or they'll be like, oh, you're just trying to manipulate me. Like, and they say this because they don't want to be accountable for the fact that they are the ones making you cry. Because for them to show empathy means that they have to be accountable. It means that they have to be responsible. They have to acknowledge that they are a shitty person, that they are doing something abusive to hurt you. And now they need to basically make it up to you. They need to like acknowledge and validate your pain. But for them to do that requires empathy, and they just don't want to do that. They don't care. So because with a narcissist, they have extreme selfishness. The only thing they care about is themselves. They are extremely self-centered. So they won't care about people in a deep level. They'll pretend they do, especially covert narcissists. So if a covert narcissist, you know, this is why they'll put strangers above you. They'll put anyone above you. You're never like a priority to them. So they'll be nicer to a complete stranger than they are to you. So, but again, this isn't because they're nice. It's because they want people to think that they are. It's all a performance. It's all fake. It's all pretend. It's all for them to boost their own ego. Because if they're being, oh, charitable or sweet or spiritual or whatever, publicly or online, people will think, oh, what a lovely guy. They'll get affection, attention. They'll get praise. That's all they care about. It's not because they actually genuinely care. It's all fake. So unfortunately, the people who are closest to them will see the mask slip, you know, because narcissists go around wearing a mask, especially covert ones. So unfortunately, the ones very close to them who are trauma bonded to them, sometimes friends and family, you know, close ones, they'll see the reality. They'll see the real dark truth. Especially when they discard you. So when they discard you, that's when they completely stop faking any form of empathy that they may have done in the beginning. So this is when they'll act like a complete stranger. Their whole personality will seemingly change. They'll completely switch. So they'll go from being like, oh, who you thought was your soulmate or best friend to your enemy, like that. And they'll blame you for it. So basically they'll project everything. Because they have literally no empathy, they don't want to be accountable, they'll project everything onto you. This is why the discard is probably the hardest part, because it literally is so disorientating and so traumatizing for the person involved who's committed years to this person to get treated like a piece of garbage, like literally just kicked to the sides like a piece of shit, like they meant nothing. Is so horrible. It's so painful and traumatizing for someone to do that to you. And what's even worse is a lot of the time the narcissist you for it when you've literally done nothing but do everything in your power to save the relationship, to fix the relationship, to support them, even when you've been going through hell and like health problems and all this shit. But they won't have empathy for that. They'll literally watch you die. Because a lot of the times you would have met the narcissist in quite a good place and then they'll watch you slowly deteriorate. But they don't care. So it's like you would have gone through absolute hell, like literal war. But they'll act like the victim. So they literally avoid of empathy. It doesn't matter even if you get cancer. It doesn't matter like how bad it gets for you. They still won't care. You could die. You could literally unalive yourself, which a lot of victims do. Literally 70% of genuine narcissistic abuse victims unalive themselves because the pain is so fucking bad. And even then, they'll literally accuse you of like, oh, you're controlling me, you're manipulating me, you're doing this, you're doing that. They will never validate your pain. They'll never acknowledge your pain from a deep perspective because they don't want to be responsible. They don't want to acknowledge that it's because of their abusive ways that you are broken, that you are in such a bad way now, or reacting in such a bad way, or so sick. So they make you the villain instead. So number 4 is basically every single narcissist will constantly lie. So they'll be pathological liars and they'll gaslight you. So again, like I was saying, they lie constantly and distort your reality. So gaslighting is when they will like change reality. So you'll say, like, say a truth, or you'll expose something even when you have physical evidence. Even if you have screenshots of something, like you can literally have physical evidence of something and they'll still deny it. Or you may catch them like, oh, looking at someone else, and then you'll be like, you know, can you please not do that, because if you're checking out another woman, I find it disrespectful, it upsets me, it's embarrassing. They'll just dismiss it. They'll be like, no, I wasn't doing that, even when you saw them with your own eyes, you know, numerous times. So it's that sort of thing. It's like they make you question your own reality. They make you question everything to, again, play tricks on you, because they don't want to be accountable. So this is where, like, narcissists really self-sabotage, because a lot of times, especially with an empath, you're naturally very forgiving. And this is kind of like a gift and a curse, because an empath will naturally forgive. Even when someone does do something shitty like that, you know, a narcissist won't understand that if they genuinely just said sorry, if they genuinely changed, they would have a really peaceful, loving life. So this is, you know, really the biggest karma for narcissists, is they'll fuck over people and betray and hurt people, sabotage relationships with someone who actually loved them on such a deep level, who's very forgiving, but they still sabotage it by lying and gaslighting and being extremely toxic. So they lose out on basically real love, chasing shallow shit, chasing their ego to be validated most of the time through very low superficial things, like money, drugs and sex. So, but a narcissist will lie and lie and lie and lie, even about things that just don't even need to be lied about. Sometimes they'll literally lie about something that they've already told you the truth over. It's insane, but a narcissist will literally lie to you so easily because it's so natural to them. And this is what also makes them very paranoid. So a lot of people with narcissistic personality disorder will naturally be very paranoid as well, because they're always like playing chess in their heads. They're always being very manipulative. They're always like lying, gaslighting, because they're playing all these mind games on literally so many people at the same time. They think everyone else is doing that. They literally think that everyone has like all this manipulation or agendas or whatever. So it's like they feel like that's how everyone else is because they're doing it to you. And this is why they lie about everything, and they're very much like self-serving, because one, they think everyone else does it. Two is so they can always get where they want to be. They'll scam people, they'll con people, they'll use people. You know, it's basically grooming, because when you really think about it, lying is grooming. They're constantly grooming people to get what they want, whether it be money, food, sex, a place to live, you know, some sort of upgrade in career, anything, even just to look good, even to get praise, affection, you know, anything that boosts their ego, really. Because with narcissists, they literally live their whole life through their very fragile ego and not love. And this is why they're incapable of showing and receiving genuine love. This is why it doesn't matter how much love, real love you give to a narcissist, they don't care. They don't want love. They want basically you to just obey them and be a cheerleader and enable their abuse. They want you to enable their delusion. So they'll be naturally very sneaky, very deceptive. They'll say one thing but be planning another. It's like you'll never get them to tell you the full truth. Even when they are confronted, even when they have to tell you the truth, they'll tell you half truths. They won't tell you the full truth. So like if they've cheated on you and they have to tell you the truth because they're getting blackmailed or whatever, they'll be like, oh yeah, I slept with them, but it was nothing. It was no big deal. I only shagged them 3 times, when in reality they were in a whole relationship with this person, you know, sleeping with them for months on end. You know, things like that. It's like they won't give a shit. They'll protect themselves. They'll protect their reputation, their ego all the time. And it's just sad. It's like, it's so exhausting when you really think about it, because it's like, why, like the thing that gets me is like, why can't narcissists literally just be a good person? Like, it's so much more simple and easier, but unfortunately it's like, they don't have that mentality. They will literally, you know, a narcissist will constantly lie, betray you, stab you in the back. if they feel like it's going to get them something that they want or get them somewhere. So this is why you can't trust a narcissist. You can't trust anyone who lies all the time. And sometimes the lying is also fake apologies. Like I said before, sometimes they'll fake being accountable. Sometimes they'll fake apologies, and they'll pretend. And this shows that they know what they're doing. This shows that they're aware of what they need to do to change, but they refuse to do so in real life. Because they'll be like, oh yeah, you know, I've stopped doing this, I've done that, you know, they'll pretend to be accountable, but it's all lies. It's literally like a way to get you back, like I was saying in the beginning, to hoover you, just to get your energy again. Because all of them are natural energy vampires. All they want is just your energy. All they want is you just to chase them. They don't want love. They're the most disloyal people ever. You cannot hide the truth forever, and this is what narcissists don't really understand. Well, they do, but they feel like they're above it, and it's like they can't stop lying because they enjoy it. It gives them a thrill because it controls people. Because if you're lying to someone, you're controlling their narrative, you're gaslighting them, you're literally creating their own reality. So this is why it's extremely sinister, because lying is manipulation, it's grooming. You'll always be hypervigilant. This will cause extreme anxiety. So it's like you're just better off single, trust me. And this leads me to number 5. And unfortunately, that is that the victim will become physically sick. So unfortunately, because when you are with a toxic person, when you're in a toxic relationship, especially for years on end, for a long period of time, it will fucking destroy your health, okay? It doesn't just destroy your mental health. It doesn't just break your spirit. It literally destroys your physical health. So a lot of the time, I've seen this with myself and with clients that I've worked with, you will literally go from being your most fittest, healthiest version of yourself a lot of the time, like, or you wouldn't have experienced many like severe health issues. And then all of that will get taken away from you. You will literally deteriorate. So a lot of the time, typical physical health issues that manifest when you are with a narcissist will be issues that are related to high cortisol. So because they put you under chronic stress, which isn't natural, because they dysregulate your nervous system severely, so you're chronically in fight or flight mode, which again, the body is not designed to be in, okay? You're only meant to be in that state for like short periods of time for survival. Like if a lion was chasing you, you'll be like, you know, your fight or flight will kick in naturally to defend you. But because you're living with a predator, literally, feeding off your energy, making you stressed, making you feel unsafe emotionally or physically, you'll be on fight or flight like constantly. You'll become extremely anxious. So the first thing is you'll get severe anxiety. You'll like, this can turn into like a full-on disorder, okay? So you can literally develop anxiety disorder. So this isn't just feeling, oh, like again, normal nervousness. It will be extreme. This is a sort of anxiety that will like make you have severe panic attacks where you'll end up in hospital, okay? Because you'll feel like you're fucking dying. You know, people who have had panic attacks will know what I'm saying. Like, it is the most horrible feeling ever. And I'm just, you know, I never had a panic attack until I was in a narcissistic relationship, okay? And it literally sent me to the ER room. I was convinced I was having a stroke. It's that bad. Like, you will literally feel like your brain will tell you you're dying. Because in a way, you fucking are. Because they're killing you. Like, people don't understand. And narcissistic abuse kills you. Especially if it's covert. It's death by 1,000 cuts. And your physical body will completely go into haywire. Okay? And your mental health. So mentally, it will cause severe things like that. And anxiety obviously has physical symptoms. You'll get severely depressed. So you may have been like just normal, and then you'll develop like manic depression, suicidal depression, where you can't even get out of bed. You'll become like bed rotting all the time. You'll be stuck on the sofa. You won't want to do anything. You'll get anhedonia. So anhedonia is basically a condition, a disorder where you don't feel pleasure anymore. So things that used to bring you pleasure don't anymore. So it's like you become numb. And this is because you've now gone into the freeze mode. So again, this is a symptom of having a dysregulated nervous system, because when your nervous system is dysregulated, there's 4 different types. So you either go into flight mode, fight mode, freeze, okay, so that's dissociation, procrastination, that sort of thing, or fawning. So fawning is when you people please. This is when you're like, you know, you chase them all the time. This is when you're doing everything you can to make the narcissist happy. And ironically, when you do fawn, they hate it because they don't trust it. Again, I've had this before, and this is how I know it doesn't matter what you do, how you act with a narcissist, whether you're holding them accountable or whether you're like being like a little servant and literally being as sweet and quiet and nice to them as possible, they'll still attack you. They'll still discard you. They'll still abuse you. Because when you're in fawning mode, because you're doing everything you can to stop them discarding you, abandoning you, basically hurting you again, they'll call you fake. So it's like, and this is, you know, this is a sick like mind games that they'll play with you. So that in itself is severe enough. But then when you're chronically stressed, this will destroy your body. So your body as well, especially if you're a woman, rejects toxic partners. Your body knows before your brain. Your body is very, very smart, okay? Because it's really connected to energy, and energy doesn't lie. So if you're physically getting sick around someone, you know, illnesses that you never had before you met them, that is a huge red flag, especially if they have any other of these signs that I've said in this video. So common physical illnesses that you will get is things like weight gain, so things related to cortisol, because with cortisol that will cause you to get weight gain, acne, okay, your skin will become the worst it's ever been. You may get a neck hump, so you'll get this little hump on the back of your neck. You'll get things like, you know, even sweating more, insomnia, anemia if you're a girl, a woman in particular. You'll get severe gut issues, because again, if you're stressed, your gut stops digesting. Your gut stops working because it's in such severe chronic stress. It feels like it has to use energy elsewhere. So it will be putting all that energy into your arms and your legs because it feels like it has to like fight at any moment. So it will literally reduce the energy that it's using to do things like digesting foods. So then you'll get severe gut issues, you know, bloating, SIBO, and this will then cause, you know, nutrient deficiencies. This will cause so many like issues just with that alone. Constipation, you'll get even diarrhea. So when you're highly anxious, your bowels will be all over the place. You'll get things like eye twitches. So because like literally, because when you're so stressed, you'll start to get spasms. So your eye will start spasming like all the time. And it's like, it's so bad. And, you know, I remember having this, my eye would just be shaking like this constantly. Again, this can be also because when you're so chronically stressed, it depletes your magnesium levels. So, and this is dangerous. So basically your magnesium levels will become really, really low. And then that will cause worse anxiety, worse panic attacks, dissociation disorder, muscle twitches, muscle spasms, pins and needles. You'll get hot burn syndrome. So basically you'll literally feel like you're burning. And I used to get this in one foot. So basically your just one foot or your hands will feel like they're on fire, and you'll be like, what the fuck is that? And that's your nerves, your nervous system like acting up. You'll get, you know, restless leg syndrome, aches and pains, extreme fatigue, so many disorders, chronic headaches, tinnitus. You'll get migraines, you'll get literally so many things, even eye problems. So if you already had glasses, for example, your eyesight will get worse. So you'll get blurry vision, more eyesight issues. You'll probably go from just reading glasses to like now you have to wear glasses all the time, or you have to wear contact lenses all the time just to like see anything. So this is what chronic stress does to the body. And in the more severe cases, you'll get things like literal cancer, stroke, heart attack. it can kill you. Like, this is why narcissistic abuse is so fucking important to be aware of, because it's like these people literally will kill you from stress, because your body can't handle it, especially if you're a woman. You can't literally be in a state of stress, because it destroys you from the inside out. And then even worse, to do with your brain, you'll get brain fog, you'll get dissociation disorder, you'll feel like you're not even in reality anymore, you'll feel like you're not even, like, you'll have extreme dissociation, extreme anxiety, and then this can be turned into like hypochondria, where you're scared to leave the house, you're scared to drive. You know, I've had bits of this where you have like panic attacks in a grocery store. You'll have to pull over, you know, you'll get weird anxiety even when you're driving, you'll feel dizzy, you'll feel very foggy, you'll get memory loss. So you'll have gaps of things missing, you won't remember things clearly. And this is what keeps people stuck in a trauma bond even worse and longer, because you forget what they do to you. So this is what's even more fucked up, and why you should always screenshot things or write things down, you know, have evidence. Because if you don't, you literally forget. Because when you go through such extreme trauma, your brain literally like blacks it out. It shuts it down. It doesn't matter even if you're eating well, you'll find you're probably on all these supplements, all these pills, but it's like you can't heal. It will even slow wound healing. Like, just everything is damaged, everything is deteriorated. You become like a zombie. And it destroys you. It destroys your beauty, because obviously you get cortisol face. So people who know that, you get inflammation, you'll get like moon face, like a puffy face. You'll become very swollen looking. Even hair loss, your hair will start to thin. You obviously weight gain. You know, a lot of people will become the heaviest they've ever become when they're with a narcissist. They'll gain so much weight. Or sometimes it'll be the other way around. They'll become emaciated because they can't eat. But a lot of the time, of cortisol, it will cause weight gain, especially around your midsection. So you'll get like a tummy, a cortisol belly, they call it, where again, it's like it's really difficult to lose. And this doesn't matter. Like, you can't get rid of it even through exercise, because it's all to do with your hormones. And if cortisol is too high, it's like, those things won't go away through diet alone. You literally need to get out that energy. You need to do somatic healing. And you can't when you're in a relationship like this. And this is why, if anything motivates you more than anything, do it for your physical health. Because trust me, the longer you stay in the narcissistic relationship, the sicker you're going to get. So, and this can lead to really severe things that you can't reverse. You know, pouring your energy into a narcissist is like pouring water into a cup with a hole at the bottom. And it doesn't matter how much you give and pour and pour and pour. It's like you're going to be running on empty. And this is when they discard you. It's like, you know, they'll wait until you look the worst you've ever looked. They'll wait until you've like gained weight, you look like shit, you're covered in acne, you've got all these health problems, all these issues, now all these mental health issues. And then they discard, and then they cheat on you with a new supply. You know, they'll jump to a new supply because they've taken all of that energy from you. They suck it all out from you. So it's like they can't feed off you anymore. Because if you're sick, if you're empty, literally, they go. They literally discard you. So, but then they'll come back as soon as they sense your energy. This is why they come back when you start to heal. Because a lot of the times people will, you know, glow up or heal and start to be able to lose the weight or whatever, you know, these health issues will revert back when the narcissist is gone. But this is when they come back, and then you get sick again, trust me. And even sexually, it's very important. You'll even get sexual illnesses. So UTIs, thrush, womb pain, even endometriosis. Like, you'll get all these menstrual cycle issues, all these illnesses in regards to that sort of thing, and your hormones, because again, everything is dysregulated. So and it's because a lot of the time narcissists will be very unfaithful. They'll be cheating on you, and they never use protection. And in more serious cases, you can actually get STIs. You know, I've had clients unfortunately get very severe life-altering diseases where they can't heal. really severe things such as like HIV even. Because even a lot of narcissists are gay on the down low, okay? They'll be secretly having homosexual relations without you knowing. So this can be very dangerous sexually because, again, they don't care. A narcissist will not give a shit if they give you an STD. They will not care if they give you, you know, some sort of disease. They don't care what they do to your health. They literally do not give a shit. So please bear that in mind and pay attention to these signs. So number 6 is porn and drug addictions. So again, relating to what I've been saying about STIs and that sort of thing, you know, this isn't to say that every man that has a porn addiction is a narcissist, but every narcissist has a porn addiction. You know, they'll have a very weird, promiscuous, again, very transactional relationship when it comes to sex. They'll be very promiscuous. They'll normally have a really high sex drive. Again, it's because it's a way for them to get supply. It's a way for them to get their ego validated. It's a way for them to, like, yeah, literally get energy from people, especially males. So, because they literally take, you know, women's energy from them when they're having sex with them. So it's also very transactional. It's very robotic. And they'll always have a porn addiction because it's just a quick way for them to get dopamine. It's a quick way for them to get, you know, pleasure. You know, narcissists always chase pleasure. They're always chasing whatever their ego is like desiring. That's what they live for, essentially. They don't care. And unfortunately, even if they pretend like they're not doing it, they are in secret, trust me. So a lot of the times, especially covert narcissists, they'll pretend that, oh, they hate porn, it disgusts them, but in reality, they're doing it behind your back. Sometimes they'll even do it publicly, you know, they'll take it to extremes. If they're not able to do it secretly, you know, they'll do it at places like work, in the car. You know, a lot of men use porn at work. A lot of narcissists do this. So, you know, it's really disgusting. And that in itself is a huge red flag. You know, if you're with a man with a porn addiction, don't even bother. Because it's like, you will always feel like shit. You will always feel like you can't compare. You're not good enough. And it doesn't matter how gorgeous you are. It doesn't matter what you can give. It doesn't matter how sexual you are to them. It doesn't matter how much sex you're giving them. It's still never going to be enough, especially for a narcissist. They'll feel entitled to your body. So they'll also be very sexually coercive. They'll always like kind of be like demanding sex from you. They'll feel very entitled for you to do that. Even more sinisterly, they'll get turned on when you're crying. So sometimes you'll be like in absolute, you know, really stressed, crying. You can literally be like sobbing over the phone to them through like a FaceTime. And it's like, instead of them being there, being present with you, which they never are, by the way, they're never present with you. They'll just be like, oh, you look sexy when you cry. And then start wanking off, like, excuse my language, but they'll literally do that. They'll constantly demand sexual videos, sexual pictures of you. Because again, this is a way of control. They want to feel like they own you, they own your body, and they're entitled to sexual pleasure. They'll use things like prostitutes, escorts. They'll go to like massage parlors. They'll, you know, go to countries where that's, you know, easily accessible. They'll, you know, because they don't care. They're very immoral when it comes to sexuality, very immoral. And this is why it's so dangerous to be with a narcissist, because you don't know what you're going to catch. You know, it's bad enough getting things like thrush and womb pain. You know, sometimes that in itself can be really severe. You can get really bad infections, a lot of like painful sex. That's another sign, by the way. If you have really painful sex and it's like your body doesn't want to have sex with them, that's a huge red flag. That's, again, your body rejecting them, or you having a really bad infection that they may have caused you. So always get tested, go get checked out. If you have or are with a narcissist or have been with one, go get checked out. And because they never use condoms either. Again, narcissists are very risky. They'll get people pregnant, again, and they don't care. They won't be fathers. They'll abandon their children, or they'll use them as weapons. They don't give a shit, basically. They don't care, you know, what situation or condition or issue that they'll put someone else in. They don't care what danger they put you in. Because one, they can't control their sexual energy. Well, they don't want to control it. They're very promiscuous. And two, they'll do it to make you feel like shit. So they'll literally do it to make you feel insecure. And this can be like, you know, they'll do it so blatantly as well. Like they'll literally make you so unhappy and hyper vigilant, because they'll be obviously watching porn behind your back, which is an extreme emotional betrayal. You know, porn is emotional adultery. I don't give a shit what anyone says, you know, and luckily many psychiatrists are now making this more known. It's being brought to the public, even like people on Instagram and like influencers as well speaking out about this. They're saying how damaging porn actually is in relationships, which is just fucking common sense. Because it's like, it's just not natural. And again, this needs a whole video on itself. You know, go check out my old videos I've done on porn. But I will be doing a video on this and why it's a huge red flag, and why you should not be the cool girl and just accept it, because trust me, it's gonna bite you in the ass later on. But yeah, I won't get into that now because it's a whole video. But just know it's really damaging. They always have addictions. They always have sex addictions, because basically it's a sex addiction, which means that they're not going to be faithful to you. They will cheat on you. They use you for sex. It'll feel robotic, but they'll also be, unfortunately, sex with a narcissist will feel good. It'll feel like more intense sometimes than the average person, because they starve you of affection. So again, because of a trauma bond, whenever you have sex with a narcissist, it's like the only time they're giving you presence. It's the only time that they're giving you so much affection. So it's giving you all that dopamine, because it's the only time you feel connected to them. It's because you're physically connecting bodies, as sad as that is. So because you don't have outside physical connection, sex will become, again, more addictive. You'll crave sex with them, especially when you're trauma bonded to them in a relationship. Because it's like, that's the only time you feel connection. But at the same time, in reality, it will be very cold. Like when you're having sex with them, it won't be romantic. They won't be like caressing your face. They won't be even kissing you much. And if they do kiss you, it'll be very pornographic type kissing. It won't be, you'll just feel it's not very romantic. It's not very intimate. It's very, again, pornographic, the way they initiate sex and have it. It's not really, it's all like a performance as well. You know, they're normally quite unresponsible with money, finances, that sort of thing. They're very prone to being addicted to like gambling. They're very prone to abusing some sort of substance, especially drugs and alcohol, of course. But more so like just drinking or marijuana as well. Just anything that like switches off their brain, essentially. So because when they're addicted to a substance, it makes them feel more grandiose. It makes their ego become more inflated. It makes them not face reality. It makes them basically not be able to think, to reflect. Because sometimes with a non-malignant narcissist, they'll get times of like introspection. Very rarely, but sometimes they get something called narcissistic collapse, where they'll be like, am I the problem? Like they'll get faced with something in extreme circumstances. Very rare. And this is normally when they're like later in age. Normally after something quite severe has happened in their own lives. So, but unfortunately, after their narcissistic collapse, and sometimes they become somewhat conscious of like their own flaws, they'll turn to drugs or alcohol or something to raise the dopamine, to like switch their brain off. And then they turn again, they switch constantly. So they'll switch back to feeling grandiose again, because a narcissist can't handle shame. And this is why they run from it. They're very avoidant, because it's like they themselves have abandonment issues, oddly. So, you know, this is a whole deeper thing within itself, but it's kind of like, they almost have like a very immature childlike minds, weirdly, even though they're so demonic. They have also this weird, very immature, damaged childhood, childlike brain. So they'll act like, they'll do everything in their power to like just feel inflated all the time. They constantly need attention, validation. They constantly need people to think that they're great. You know, they need to be enabled 24/7, no matter what damage they're doing. And this is what a drug obviously gives them because a drug is like constantly giving serotonin, constantly giving dopamine. So it makes them literally be on a high 24/7 to avoid basically thinking, to avoid being responsible. And they do this with sex as well. So it's like they'll basically cover everything, their shadow. They'll refuse to face their inner demon and shadow by covering it with substance abuse, essentially. So this leads me on to number 7, and it's basically that they wear a mask constantly and they fake kindness. So this is more so covert narcissists as opposed to overt narcissists, but overt ones definitely can do this as well, especially with strangers and people that they're trying to impress or love bomb, so new supply. But like, think of it like an overt narcissist typically is kind of like people like Andrew Tate, where they're very flamboyant, quite eccentric, very loud. But a covert narcissist will be more quiet, more controlled, more calculated. They'll be more kind of like, oh, the charitable, nice guy type persona. But in reality, it's a mask. So they do this obviously to groom people. And again, it's kind of like, because it gives them like validation, it gives them supply. So basically, many psychiatrists will use the word supply, narcissistic supply, when really it's energy. So supply is energy. So they do everything to get praise, validation, energy. And this is why they surround themselves with very fake, superficial people a lot of the time. If a narcissist does have friends, it will be either with other narcissists or with people who are like really, it will be very shallow friendships. So they'll kind of like not really know the narcissist. It will be not a deep relationship. It will be just someone that they get drunk with on the weekends. It will be someone that they get high with, take drugs, or you know, whatever the case. It will be normally people with like low morals themselves. It will be people who enable their toxic behavior. It won't be people who call them out. It won't be people. It will also be like people who like cheat on their partners. It will be people who are immature. They'll surround themselves with people like that, or they'll be very fake around people that they're trying to impress. So if they do meet someone who's not like that, who does have morality or whatnot, that they aspire to be like, or that they like, or they want to like get something from, they'll be very fake towards them. They'll fake morality, fake kindness. Of course, if they're on social media, they'll be extremely fake with social media. They'll pretend like, you know, they're great. They'll pretend like they have compassion. This is why, unfortunately, you'll see many spiritual narcissists, so many fake gurus, fake church people, fake priests. So all these types of people are covert narcissists, all right? So fake gurus, fake, you know, church preachers, fake spiritual influencers, life coaches. But unfortunately, they do this to get attention, to get energy, to get praise, because that's what gives them, you know, supply. That's what makes their ego feel inflated. Because a narcissist hates being alone. You will literally see them getting like euphoric when they're in a group of people, when they're getting attention from multiple people. It's like they love it. They can't get enough of it. You know, with a narcissist, they're addicted to validation. They're addicted to energy from other people, massively. This is why they're obsessed with money and success, because in their heads, they think that that's going to give them loads of attention, loads of validation. It's going to inflate their ego even more. So it's like they chase all these superficial things, but they kind of pretend like they don't want them. So they wear the fake mask. And even more sinisterly, this is why they treat strangers so good compared to their loved ones. Even if they're pretending to be like, oh, a spiritual healer or a life coach or whatever the case, even a therapist, it's like they'll pretend they're so nice to other people or their clients or whatever, on people on the street, but they neglect and abuse the people closest to them. And this is why they even do this to your family members as well, or to your friends at times. This is why when you've been abused by a covert narcissist, it's hard for people to even believe you, because it's like, they'll be like, oh, but they're such a nice guy. Oh, but they seem so sweet. When in reality, it's because they're pretending. So they'll even, like, in front of your family and friends, they'll switch. So they'll be all like really cuddly. If they're like, you know, not planning on discarding you yet, they'll basically love bomb you in front of people. So if you're out in public with the narcissist, they'll be like around people they want to impress or manipulate. They'll kiss you, they'll be all over you, but then when you go home, they neglect you. When you go home, it's like they only use you for sex. They're very cold, very distant, very avoidant, you know, or they're just really moody, really horrible towards you. So, but sometimes a mask does slip. So then this can be like if a family member, you know, sometimes if like their family members aren't enablers, they'll see their true colors. They'll try to like basically hold the narcissist accountable. They'll, you know, kind of expose them. They'll confront them about things that they've done wrong. But the narcissist will always see that as like they're the victim, because they can't handle any form of like constructive criticism, anything at all. You know, whenever you confront a narcissist about something that they're doing that's hurting you, or something that's like just wrong, they'll think of that you're attacking them. So they'll constantly say like, oh, you just attacked me, you're attacking me, you're attacking me, when in reality you're literally asking for the bare minimum of respect. Or you're literally confronting that they're doing something immoral or bad, or whatever the case. So number 8 is all narcissists will have a God complex and entitlement. So again, this links to what I've already been saying, but all narcissists will be extremely grandiose. They'll have extreme God complex. This is why it's even worse if they are spiritual, if they're involved in some sort of like cult, or, you know, that way of thinking, sometimes religion as well, or extreme religions, or, you know, that sort of thing. But they don't have to be. It's literally basically that they put their own importance above everything else. So with their God complex, grandiose persona, they'll feel entitled to everything without earning it. They'll feel entitled to your respect, to your trust, when they're doing everything to disrespect you, to make you not trust them. When they're lying to you, emotionally abusing you, they'll still feel entitled to you respecting them. They'll still feel entitled to you like being like, yay, like enabling their behavior. So it's insanity, to be honest. And this is what drives people absolutely insane, is because a narcissist will never be accountable for what they do wrong, because they have a God complex, because they are so grandiose. Their ego is truly fucking astounding. But again, they'll switch. So sometimes like they'll go from being very grandiose to then being like having a narcissistic collapse. So if things don't go their way, again, instead of being like mature, because they'll always be extremely immature, instead of them being mature and taking a step back and looking at their life and their actions and how they're treating people, they'll play the victim. It's like it doesn't matter like how bad things get. It doesn't matter how badly someone that they treat becomes. They'll still refuse to see truth. They'll still refuse to be accountable, because they're so entitled. Even when they discard you, they'll feel entitled to you. They'll still feel like they own you. And this is what also causes them to do a lot of spiritual bypassing if they're spiritual. They won't be spiritual. they'll pretend like they are, but again, they'll only use spiritual tools to get what they want. So they'll do basically everything to get money or pleasure or fame. They'll obsess over success. They'll obsess over money. They'll put those things above everything and everyone. And this is why they'll betray anyone. They'll always do what they can to get where they want to be, no matter who they have to stab in the back, no matter who they have to discard. They're not loyal at all. They're only loyal to their own inner demon. So this basically, of course, will cause them to be extremely selfish. They won't be responsible for anything. Even if they have children, they will not be responsible for them. They'll either just abandon them, discard them as well. They'll do the same to any sort of family members, anything that requires them to be like responsible and empathic and have to give energy that they don't want to give. They'll run, they'll abandon, they'll discard. And they're also extremely hypersensitive to any form of constructive criticism. So because they've got such a grandiose ego, they can't handle any form of criticism. They'll see any form of constructive criticism or you simply telling them something that they don't want to hear as an attack. So they'll be extremely defensive. They'll literally just project. So if you're basically trying to like show them something or explain to them that they're doing something wrong, they'll twist it and be like, well, you did this, you done that. So it's like they'll constantly do this projection. They'll constantly do Davo. So they'll deflect things. They'll accuse you of doing something instead. They'll be reactive. They'll play victim. So basically it's like they just constantly do this mind games instead of just being accountable, being mature, and then genuinely apologizing and then changing. You'll never see a narcissist do that. They may pretend to do for short periods of time, but it's fake, and then they switch back. So it's like this endless nightmare because they literally feel like they're perfect. They literally feel like they're entitled to everything without earning it. They don't earn respect. They don't earn trust. They don't earn anything. They literally take it and they demand it without literally doing barely anything. You know, a narcissist won't do the bare minimum in a relationship. It'll be way, way, way below that because they have such extreme God complex. And sometimes this can become even worse within like if they're in a cult, if they get any sort of like power or fame, it can turn disastrous. And this is where it's like the more power a narcissist gets, the more abusive they turn. Even if you're in a relationship with them, it's like if they discard you, and God forbid if you forgive them after they've cheated on you, they'll abuse you worse, because it's like, oh, I can treat this person however I want and they're still gonna basically accept me. They're still gonna let me in. They're still gonna like, basically they'll get high off it. They'll kick you when you're down. They'll enjoy it. So you'll see, and this will disgust you when the trauma bond is broken, because you'll look back, you'll get your memories back and you'll think, wait a minute, when I was like literally in complete disarray, like at your absolute worst, when you've like forgiven them for cheating on you, betraying you, treating you like so horrifically, and they still have the audacity to like abuse you again or then play the victim. It's extreme. It's like nothing is like more sinister than that. So, but they do this because of their ego. It's like they never, ever can like put themselves in someone else's shoes, because it's like they constantly feel entitled to your mind, your body and your spirit. They're also extremely delusional, and this is even worse if they have any drugs. If they're abusing substances, you know, drugs, alcohol, but more so like drugs, they'll become extremely delusional. They'll become psychotic. And this can also go hand in hand with them becoming paranoid. They'll feel like they're the victim because they're so great, that everything and everyone's out to get them. It's just extreme what they do. It's like, it doesn't matter what karma they even get. So a lot of the times, you know, narcissists will get bad karma, but then they'll blame God. They'll blame other things. They'll say, oh, God hates me. God just hates me. They won't actually acknowledge it's because they've been fucking over everyone else. They've been stabbing people in the back. They've been breaking people's hearts. You know, they've just been extremely abusive and selfish, but they'll still play the victim. They'll still make it about them and not others because of their grandiose ego. So number 9 is they will use the silent treatment. So this is basically them using the silent treatment to punish you, and they will neglect you. So basically, you know, neglect, like I've said before, and silent treatment and ghosting, stonewalling is one of the most sinister emotional, psychological forms of abuse that someone can do to another human being. Because when they do that to you, they are basically making you feel completely insignificant. They're basically saying that you're not even worth anything. You're not worth an ounce of my presence, attention, or whatever. And another thing to know is because, like I was saying before, because narcissists are so entitled, they're so grandiose, they will think and say that their presence alone is enough to prove that they love you, by the way. But people need to be aware that when someone is ignoring you, and I mean severely, like neglecting you for like hours, days, giving you the silent treatment, and this includes you like crying and sobbing and begging for them to like acknowledge you or whatever, and they're just stonewalling you, they're just like acting like a statue, they're literally like just not even looking at you, that is extreme abuse. So this basically activates the same brain receptors in the brain as being punched in the face. So when you are going through physical pain, it's the same thing as being ignored. So being ignored basically triggers the same brain receptors to go off as if you're in physical pain. So basically being ignored and neglected is the same thing. It's just as bad as getting physically abused. And I can tell you this because I've been in a physically abusive relationship. You know, I was unfortunately with a very overt narcissist when I was way younger, who was physically abusive to me, you know, really bad, like would hurt me, you know, a lot of domestic violence. And I've also been with a covert narcissist who didn't do any of that, but would be extremely neglectful. He would use this silent treatment, stonewalling. And I can tell you that was actually worse. And that can sound like crazy, but for me, that caused so much more trauma. Because it was like, when you're at least getting physically abused, you know that person's bad. Like, because in your brain, you're like, okay, that person is physically hurting me. They're being domestically violent. You know, I need to leave, you know, and that person, you know, especially if the police gets called, you know, if you get put in hospital, if you get a black eye, which I did get a few times, you know, cut lip, you know, blood vessels bursting in my eye once, you know, all of that, like extreme abuse. Being strangled almost to death, being spat on, you know, slapped across the face numerous times, hard. You know that you could still be trauma bonded to someone like that, but it's like, you know, it's wrong. But if someone is psychologically just neglecting you, stonewalling you, giving you silent treatment, ghosting you in your own house, you don't realize how much trauma that's actually doing to you. And this destroyed me. Like, this will destroy people. It can cause such bad psychological and physical illness within your whole body, because this is like really, you think about it, it's like, it doesn't matter how much you're crying and screaming for this person to give you affection. It's like you're in extreme agony. How it feels is like they've put you on fire and you're begging for them to put water over you and they're just staring at you. Even if you're like literally convulsing, because that's another physical side effect. That's another physical symptom when you're going through narcissistic abuse, is you'll literally sometimes actually have seizures. Your body will get so stressed, your nervous system will start to like convulse. You will literally start shaking and you won't be able to stop. So unless they give you some sort of form of comfort, and this is what even makes the trauma bond worse, because sometimes a narcissist, even worse, is they'll ignore you, stonewall you, they'll give you silent treatment when you're in such a vulnerable state, and then they'll give you a hug, and then they'll be like, oh, I'm sorry. After you've like hit your worst, after you've had a panic attack, after you've been put in hospital or whatever, and then they do that. So this deepens the trauma bond, because now in your body, it's like you only think that they can take that pain away from you. So this is why neglect and silent treatment is just as bad as getting hit in the fucking face. Trust me, it's just as bad. And many psychiatrists and therapists who know about this type of abuse are now confirming it. Brain scans confirm it. They show that being ignored And giving this type of psychological abuse is just as damaging as literally getting physically abused. So never, ever allow someone to do this to you. See it just as bad as getting smacked around the face if someone treats you this way. Because a covert type narcissist will never make you a priority. They will put you right at the bottom of their priorities. So they'll literally ignore you, neglect you. You know, they won't do cute things. They won't be romantic. They won't kiss you. So this can look like, oh, them waking up to go to work. They won't even acknowledge you're there. They won't roll over and give you a hug. They won't give you a good morning kiss. They won't say, oh, are you okay? They won't give you any emotional intimacy. They won't give you anything like that. They'll just be moody, distant, cold. They won't give you anything like that. And they'll barely hug you. They'll never like, you know, want to hold your hand. You know, they'll just be very distant, very cold. They'll only be, like I've said, like physically intimate when they want sex, when they want like something, some sort of sexual transaction a lot of the time. Or if they're breadcrumbing you, if they're giving you like, oh, a little bit of, you know, love bombing to like reel you back in, if they can feel you're starting to like drift away. So, or if they're hoovering you, they'll be all over you then. Or sometimes a narcissist can like be in a really good mood because they've got like, oh, loads of money, or they've got something. And then it's like, oh, now they're going to give you loads of attention. Now they're going to, you know, it's insane. It's like sometimes it can be that bad. It's like they'll connect you to their finances. You're always the emotional punching bag. And even if they're like pretending to look after you, even if like, say you're physically sick and they're like, oh, going to get you water, or, you know, trying to look after you, they'll do it with resentment, and you can pick up on that. So, and they'll only do this if they feel like they have to and they have no choice. So they'll basically, you know, a covert narcissist will do this. They'll literally like, oh, nurse you, but in their minds, they're like hating you. It's all fake. It's all pretend. It's literally robotic, like with the sex. It'll be like, oh, here's your water, here's this, oh, here's your food. It's never like warm. There's no warmth from them. They'll literally feel like a fucking reptile. They're so cold. So don't ignore the seriousness of neglect. Don't ignore how damaging the silent treatment can be, because this is the most powerful way to make you hate yourself. This is the most powerful way to destroy your self-esteem, to make you feel like you're not good enough, to literally make you become like, basically they're saying, oh, you're not even worth acknowledging in my reality. Like, that's how severe it is. So number 10 is reactive abuse. So this is probably one of the worst, most sinister things that can happen when you're in a toxic relationship. But this normally happens like years into it. So this will take time to build up. And again, it will become worse and worse and worse. So, you know, a narcissist will literally turn the most sweetest, empathic person into a complete wreck. Like, they'll literally make you not act like yourself. They'll make you become very aggressive, because they'll provoke you and provoke you and provoke you. So it's like there's only so much someone can take until they snap. So basically a narcissist will obviously neglect you, abuse you, psychologically torment you for years on end. And then eventually you'll start to snap, you'll start to retaliate, especially like I said before with the physical, you know, psychological symptoms. When your cortisol is really high and your nervous system is out of whack, you naturally become more reactive. You naturally become more aggressive, because it damages the hippocampus part of your brain. You'll become more in your survival mind. So you'll become very on edge, very snappy, very like, you know, really hypervigilant. And your temper will become very short. Any sort of stress, any sort of trigger will make you like just go off on one, because it's like your body is so exhausted, it's so stressed out. You'll go through phases of like complete shutdown, dissociation, to then like just being a maniac. Literally from the outside in, people will think you're the crazy one. Especially covert narcissists, they'll like provoke you. normally through silent treatment, abuse, just like, you know, everything, all the shit that they've done, you know, lying, cheating, whatever the case. So they'll cause so much trauma, so much damage, and they won't help you heal it at all. You know, people forget, like, you know, when you betray someone, it takes 2 years for that person to trust you again. So within the brain, and from what psychologists have taught us, it's like when you betray someone, you have to now, and that means that person is on their best behavior. So it takes 2 years of that person who betrayed you to basically prove to you that they're trustworthy by making you feel safe, by treating you with love, treating you with respect, you know, treating you, being healthy with you, being loving to you for 2 whole years until you can, like, relax again, for your nervous system to trust that person again. People don't understand how damaging it is to betray and lie to someone, to break trust like that. You know, it's so quick to break someone, but it takes years of time and patience to put them back together. It's like when it's like you have a plate, right? A beautiful plate, and you smash it on the floor into like 1,000,000 pieces. It will take you fucking hours, days, weeks to glue all those little pieces back together again. But even though that plate is back together again, you can still see it's got, you know, scars. You know, it does cause emotional scarring. This is why you should never betray someone, ever. This is why you don't lie, you don't cheat on them, you don't do all this shit. Because it's like, it will never be the same again. You know, that person can forgive you, but they won't forget. You've caused a scar, you've caused an emotional scar. So now it's like that trigger, that scar can be triggered at any moment. And of course, it will start to alleviate and it will get less and less and less and less, but it takes time. So yes, you can heal from betrayal, but it takes a lot of effort from the person who done the betraying, the lying, the cheating, whatever the case. They have to change their behavior for at least 2 years for you to be able to trust them again, which many people don't do, especially narcissists. So a narcissist will not do this. Instead, they will provoke you, and years and years, and you will start to react worse and worse and worse. So then you will turn it almost into like a narcissist, but you're not one. But you'll, from the outside world, you will look crazy when you're having an argument with them, because you'll be so stressed and so hypervigilant and so overstimulated. Your nervous system will be fucked. So then it's like you will then lash out, you'll scream, you'll cry, you may throw things. And then what does the narcissist do? They sit back, they watch you, they smirk, their eyes go black, or worse, they whip out their phone and they record you. So most of the time, a narcissist, they won't react that way. An overt one might sometimes, but a lot of the time, especially covert, they'll just watch you, and sometimes they'll laugh. They'll just be like, or they'll be like, you're crazy, you're psycho, look how horrible you are, look how abusive you are, this is why I can't, you know, tell you the truth. You know, they'll then make it worse. They won't comfort you when it would have normally taken like hours of you trying to explain to them, because you'll have circular conversations as well. You'll go insane because you'll spend hours and hours explaining something to them, trying to make them understand why they're hurting you. And then it will either end with you snapping and losing your temper and having a breakdown or crying or having a panic attack. Or it will end with them being like, okay, I understand. And then they hug you. And then they'll do the same thing the next day. So you'll go insane, because it's like they never change consistently. And this is what literally will make people snap and go mad. Anyone will go mad. And people who have not been through this don't understand it. So from the outside looking in, luckily people are more aware of it now, so they're not so judgmental when they see someone losing their shit. A lot of the times they'll be like, why are they doing that? What did that person do to them to make them so angry to begin with? A lot of the time with victims, it's like they were never like this. They'll make you act out of character. They will turn you into an angry, bitter, hypervigilant, scared person. Where before you could have been so chilled, so mellow, so happy, like like most empaths are. And they love it, you know, because a narcissist loves to see you break. They love to see your reaction. And this is why the biggest thing that they hate is you just ignoring them. Is when you grey rock them. It's when you go no contact. Is when basically you don't react anymore. Because when you have a huge explosion of negative energy, when you literally hit rock bottom and you like lash out, they still like that. They feed off it. They love chaos. They love drama. They'll say they hate it, but they don't. Because the worst thing they can't stand is if you just don't care anymore. It's when you become indifferent. That's when they lose their shit. That's when they start to hoover you. But they love to make you look like a villain. So this is why they do this. They'll provoke you so you look like the bad guy. So you look like the crazy one. So then they can be like, see, look how crazy they are. So they can justify and gaslight you by using your own reactions. And this is why reactive abuse is one of the most sinister tactics of manipulation that narcissists do to their victims. Because then you will question yourself. You'll feel like, oh my God, it's me. I'm the bad one. Until you finally break the trauma bond and put all the pieces together. Because you're not. So you need to really, really take a step back and understand what's truly going on here. Because a lot of the time, you weren't like this before you met this person. Their darkness distorts you. Their darkness turns you dark, especially if you're an empath, because then it's like, because you're so sensitive to energy, and then you start to mirror them. You even get narcissistic fleas, they call it. So they'll start to make you more chaotic, more apathetic. It's insane what they do to you. So it's like, and they want that. They want you to turn like a monster. So they can basically justify discarding and abusing you. This is why they like it. They love it. So they can literally say, oh, look, see, they're horrible to other people. And this leads me to the next sign. So basically the next one is triangulation. So like I was saying before, they'll triangulate you with other people, especially with their next supply. So, or if you're like the baby mama, you know what I mean? If you have kids with the person, unfortunately, if you got trapped with a narcissist and had children with them, they'll use you as a weapon. So basically, if they haven't abandoned you entirely. So basically, but with a narcissist, they will always try to triangulate you. They will turn people against each other. So for example, you know, when they discard their previous person, they'll then turn the next supply that they're love bombing against their ex. Or they'll even do it with friends or family or whatever. They'll basically smear campaign you. So they'll completely lie. They'll, you know, run off to their next supply, to their next person that they're love bombing. Even strangers, like anyone that they're trying to impress. And they'll say a sob story. They'll make out they're the victim. You know, they'll even show things. They'll basically make you the villain. You're the bad guy. Even when you have evidence that you're not, but they won't care. And sometimes they'll prevent you from meeting. They'll literally prevent you from meeting their friends. They'll prevent you from meeting their family because they've lied about you so much to their family because they've basically used you as a scapegoat. So especially if they've done things wrong, they'll blame it on you. So they're always triangulating to basically avoid accountability because they know if both sides know the full truth, then they can see the narcissist's true colours and then they'll be held to, you know, basically be held accountable. But they'll always triangulate people. They'll turn people against one another. They'll love if they have like 2 women or 2 men fighting over them. They'll, you know, especially with their next victim, their next supply, you know, whoever they're trying to like get in bed with next, they'll say, oh, you know, my ex is crazy. They'll make them the victim, but that the new supply will learn in time, trust me. You know, they'll triangulate people until they don't need you anymore. So it's this constant like manipulation. It's like they literally will treat people like a game of chess, essentially. Everything's strategy. You know, a lot of narcissists will be obsessed with strategy because they do it with humans. So they're always like playing mind games, always thinking how they can like, you know, fucking manipulate people, enable people, avoid things, avoid truths. This is why they constantly lie to everyone. It's insane. It's exhausting, really. So this is why it's just, you can't sometimes warn the new supply because they won't believe you. So I don't recommend trying to like warn the next person, you know, until maybe you start to see that they're suffering, or if they come to you, let them come to you. Because they won't believe you a lot of the time, because a narcissist is extremely manipulative. They'll lie and they'll like basically switch things. So things that they've done to you, they'll lie and say that you've done to them. So it's kind of like, it's really, really horrible. It's really fucked up mind games that they will just constantly do with all the people, all the relationships that they have. So a lot of the time, a narcissist will put you in a position where you can't even defend yourself. They'll turn people against you who haven't even met you or even heard your side of the story. You know, they'll always do this. They'll love to triangulate people to make out like, you know, they're the innocent, nice one and everyone else is like to blame. So they'll just constantly blame and lie. They literally do everything to protect themselves, but they're not protecting their well-being. They're protecting their toxicity. They're protecting their delusions. They're protecting their lies. They're protecting, you know, their ego, essentially, because they want shortcuts to life. You know, narcissists don't want to do things the moral way. They'll pretend like they are, but they're not, because they just don't care. They literally have no empathy when it comes to anyone except themselves. And because of their entitlement, like I said before. Now, the last sign is paranormal activity getting more active when you're with a narcissist. So, of course, you can be born like a medium, spiritual, and have like spiritual experiences. Like you may be someone, this actually is more so for these types of people. So this is more of a spiritual sign. So if you're someone that has always been sort of like aware of the spirit world, you're a witch, you're a shaman, an oracle, a healer, a medium, whatever you want to call it. So you're like, you know, quite connected to the spiritual world. You will notice that when you're with a narcissist, it's like they're a magnet to demonic energy. They're a magnet to low entities. So it will get so much worse when you're with them. So you'll notice when you're with a narcissist, you'll start to have really sometimes extreme paranormal activity. So this can also be like frequent nightmares, frequent night terrors. You'll get sleep paralysis a lot, especially if you haven't for a while, then you'll start getting it again. You'll see shadow people more. You'll hear bangs, you know, you'll be basically demonically attacked a hell of a lot. And I won't get into it now, but sometimes it can be even like really, really extreme. So this can even turn into like full on orchestrated game stalking. So it can get really, really bad. So you can get more like, you know, the conventional haunted activity in your house. Of course, this doesn't apply if you're already living in a haunted house. But even then, you'll notice it's like things get worse. Things get really, really bad. So even like lights flickering, even like just bangs in the night, you know, physical things moving, hearing things running in the house, things smashing, like, but more so like you feeling like a presence in the house, you feeling a lot of fear. Because remember, the narcissist is taking away your protective shields. Because if a narcissist is obviously stressing you out, making you physically ill, making you depressed, making you miserable, that's lowering your frequency. And if you have a low frequency, you're more vulnerable. You don't have protection, because demonic entities latch on and can attack people more so when you don't have a protective field anymore. So this is why you'll start to get like more bad negative activity, especially if you're like a medium, if you channel a lot. You know, spirits will probably start even to like actually try to possess you. Like it can get really, really severe because you won't be able to protect yourself anymore. Where you may have come from a space of like being very spiritual, being very strong, being very protective. Like this is a really, really deep topic. Again, it deserves a whole video in itself. But it's really, really, it can be very, very severe. So you'll feel cursed, basically. As soon as you're with a narcissist, you can feel like extremely cursed. You'll feel like you're constantly getting attacked. Again, the narcissist will say that they feel bad, as they feel cursed. But in reality, you're the one going through hell. You're the one like with literal demons sitting on your fucking chest at night. You're the one, you know, going through all these extreme things. Because you're the one with lights. You're the one with energy to be fed off. So it's kind of like, in a way, they're joined. And it doesn't mean that a narcissist themselves is possessed. It's because they're enmeshed with it. You know, because narcissistic people, it's kind of like their soul was taken as a child. And then something else is like taken over. Through trauma, essentially. So it's kind of like they're deeply enmeshed with a very demonic, satanic consciousness. This is why they have no empathy. So this is why it's almost impossible to cure or help a narcissistic person, because they're too far gone. It's like their soul is extremely fractured. Their true self is gone, pretty much. So it's very, very hard. Sometimes you can get through to them, but it is extremely rare. I've even seen self-aware narcissists who actually make content because they're going through therapy. But even them, you know, one of them, I can't remember his name, is this black guy. He's very, you know, he's been aware and having therapy for like 6 years with obviously someone who specializes in narcissistic personality disorder. And he still says that he's still not fully cured. He still will get like narcissistic tendencies, but the only thing that he's like, you know, conquered is awareness of it. So he's now more accountable, but it doesn't stop him from feeling you know, negative or wanting to be abusive towards people, or, you know, he doesn't feel empathy still. So it's very difficult. This is very, very rare. So this is why for pretty much, I'd say 99% of the time, you have to just let them be. You have to protect your energy. You have to go no contact. Because most narcissists, you know, their disorder, or, you know, this demonic consciousness that they have literally prevents them through seeing truth. It prevents them from being accountable and feeling empathy. And a lot of the time you'll notice as well, which many people have said, when you're fighting with a narcissist, their eyes will go black. Like I've seen this with people twice. So this will be like, you know, their pupil will go literally huge. It will literally completely overtake the iris. So it will give the illusion of like black eyes. You won't see the iris like at all. It's really quite startling when you see it. I will never forget it when I saw it on the person, especially because I did not expect to see it. And this is because it's like they're almost like a predator as well. You know, because when like with a cat, when they're literally hunting their prey, their pupil will go huge. Because it's like they're wanting to attack. So a lot of the time narcissists will have this when they're fighting with you, when the energy is very, you know, up, or they'll smirk. So another like very trademarky demonic thing that they do is they'll do this. So they'll do like a side like smirk, but they'll also have dead eyes. You know, a lot of people will say that narcissists act possessed. They act like a demon. But not in the way of like, oh, they're thrashing about, and, you know, like typical horror films. It'll be their coldness. They'll be more like, you know, like a psychopath. Kind of like when you see literally that film, Psychopath, they'll have very dead eyes. It's like there's nothing really there. But they can pretend to be like, they'll have a spark in their eyes only when they're love bombing you. or when, this is what I mean, like they'll wear masks. They'll literally have like, oh, the love bombing mask or this mask. They'll come across as charming when they have to be, when they want to be. So this is what I mean with strategy. And this is why people call them demons, is because they know what they're doing, because they've done it to you. They know how to groom people, which is a very demonic thing when you think about it. So even like serial killers like Ted Bundy fooled so many people. You know, women loved him. They thought he was very attractive. He was even on a dating show once. And loads of people who met him who weren't aware that he was literally a very, very psychotic, you know, serial killer. They thought he was a lovely guy. He even saved a young boy from drowning once. And not because he cared. It was just because he felt like it. Just because he wanted to look like the hero. So, you know, this is what I mean with the fake kindness. But in reality, they're very demonic. Because they're literally feeding off your energy. They are energy vampires. So this is why you'll go insane. You'll lose your mind dealing with one. And also paranormal activity will get worse, especially if you're a spiritual woman. You're even more at risk if you're with a narcissist. And this is truly, really what spiritual warfare is all about. It's because you know, spiritual warfare really is between narcissists and empaths. Because narcissists they have a Luciferian satanic consciousness, because all they care about is themselves. They're self-serving, which is, you know, the #1 satanic tenet. They're all about pleasure, ego, desire, not love. Where empaths, they're very giving. They're of service. They want to help people. They give, they give, they give. They're all about love. They want to receive love. They want to give love. They have extreme empathy, you know, for animals, for people, for everything. This is why empaths are the #1 supply, the #1 prey that narcissists adore. You know, the #1 prey for a narcissist is an empath. Because of your giving nature, because you're so forgiving, because you'll give them chances again and again and again and again. You know, a normal person will have more firm boundaries, but an empath, unfortunately, because you've got such a kind, forgiving heart, and because you understand people on a deeper psychological level, you'll make excuses for them, especially if you're trauma bonded, is even worse. But you'll be more inclined to forgive them. And because you just give a lot, you do a lot to please them. So, and especially unhealed empaths, you'll naturally be a people pleaser, which narcissists love. They adore that. So, because you're giving away all your energy for them, putting less and less effort. So basically, you're easy prey. You're an easy victim when it comes to a narcissistic person. So bear that in mind. And this is why, as an empath, you have to turn dark. You have to tap into your dark feminine energy. You must implement boundaries and stop people pleasing. Because if you don't, your life will be destroyed. Or you can actually end up being unalived from stress, from sickness, or even from a malignant narcissist. Because some of them can turn more psychotic and actually want to unalive you, you know, in extreme circumstances. So, yeah, bear that in mind. I know this video was really, really long, but it was a lot to explain and a lot to get through. I wanted this video to be extremely thorough. And there's still so much more to talk about this topic. So I will be talking about this sort of thing more. Let me know if you have questions down below. I will be doing a more in-depth video on how to heal, you know, from heartbreak, betrayal trauma, and break trauma bonds and that sort of thing. If you need one-to-one help, I do have a sale on, so go check that out. And if you are going through narcissistic abuse, if you're scared that you may be in a narcissistic relationship and you're not sure and you want closure, you want someone to help clarify if you are or if you're not, if you're confused whether or not you're with a twin flame or with a narcissist, then please reach out. And I can give you an oracle card reading. I can give you a therapy session. So please, please reach out and I'll be more than happy to help you. You know, with my sessions, I mix spirituality with psychology. you know, I mix the two. So, and it's important that you do the same, because you must be grounded when you're on the spiritual path. So click the link down below if you want to book in a one-to-one session with myself. If you want to go on my Patreon, where I do have videos on this type of thing, and also darker conspiracy videos, more occultic videos, things that I can't really share on YouTube, then go click there, join my coven, the Goddess Coven, and I'll be more than happy to welcome you there. And until next time, my loves, please like, subscribe, share the video to anyone who needs to see this, who needs help with this sort of thing. Until next time, my loves, I'm sending you so much love, so much light. Please take care of yourselves. Ahimsa.